Breaking news: the U.S. imposes tariffs of up to 3,521% on solar products from Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia, targeting China's transshipment trade strategy. These tariffs strike at China's use of Southeast Asian factories to bypass U.S. duties. With Chinese solar giants controlling 80% of the global supply chain, will this bold move protect American manufacturers or reshape the global solar market? Stay tuned for the full story. On April 21, 2025, the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, ITA, announced the imposition of high anti-dumping, AD, and countervailing duty, CVD tariffs on photovoltaic products, crystalline silicon photovoltaic cells and modules from Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia, with the highest tariff rate reaching 3,521%. Applied to Cambodia's Hegemony Solar and Solar Long PV Tech. Specifically, Cambodia, a nationwide tariff of 3,521% due to companies' failure to cooperate with the investigation. Vietnam, 395.9% for companies not specifically named. Thailand, 375.2%, Trina Solar at 375.19%. Malaysia, 34.41%, Jinko Solar at 41.56%. In April 2024, the American Alliance for Solar Manufacturing Trade Committee, which includes companies such as Hanwha Q-Cells, First Solar, Mission Solar, and Meyer Burger, filed a petition with the U.S. Department of Commerce. The petition accused Chinese subsidiaries in Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam of harming the U.S. domestic solar industry through dumping and receiving Chinese government subsidies. The U.S. Department of Commerce subsequently launched a one-year anti-dumping, AD, and countervailing duty, CVD investigation conducted by the ITA and the International Trade Commission, ITC. The investigation confirmed that solar companies in these countries benefited from China's transnational subsidies and used Southeast Asian factories to circumvent U.S. tariffs on direct exports from China. The high import tariffs aim to counteract China's support for the solar panel industry in these countries. These transnational subsidies have enabled Chinese-backed companies to undermine the competitiveness of U.S. manufacturers by shifting production to Southeast Asia. Among them, several Cambodian solar cell makers, namely Jintech Photovoltaic Technology, Hunan Solar, ISC Cambodia, and Solar Long PV Tech, have been hit with a combined tariff of 3,521.14%, made up of a 117.18% anti-dumping duty and a 403.96% countervailing duty. While Cambodia caught the worst of it, others aren't getting off lightly. Thailand's Sunshine Electrical Energy and Taiwan New Energy are each facing duties of 972%. Malaysian outfit Bayogia New Energy will face about 250% duties. The Commerce Department is holding China accountable for its transnational subsidies through other countries that harm American industry. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said, "Market-distorting, unfair trade practices against America have no place to hide." Cambodian companies Hegemony Solar and Solar Long PV Tech denied any wrongdoing but withdrew from the investigation due to limited resources, resulting in the highest tariff rates. Jinko Solar and Trina Solar have not immediately responded to the tariff decision, but their relatively lower rates, 41.56% and 375.19%, suggest they may adapt by adjusting supply chains, such as shifting to Indonesia. Vietnamese and Malaysian companies such as Boviet and Viasun stated they are struggling to survive and may face bankruptcy or market exit. Since 2012, when the U.S. first imposed anti-dumping and countervailing duties on Chinese solar products, Chinese solar companies have circumvented U.S. tariffs by establishing factories in Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia. These factories import Chinese raw materials, EIG, silicon wafers and cells, assemble them locally, and export to the U.S. under lower or zero tariffs. According to Bloomberg NEF, in 2023, these four Southeast Asian countries exported $12.9 billion worth of solar products to the U.S., accounting for approximately 77% of U.S. solar module imports. This transshipment trade strategy has allowed China's solar industry to maintain global dominance. In 2024, China added 210 gigawatts (GW) of solar capacity. 1 GW equals 1 million kilowatts, representing 44% of the global total of 482 GW, far surpassing Japan's 15% and the US's 9%. However, the U.S. Department of Commerce views these Southeast Asian factories as extensions of Chinese companies, relying on Chinese subsidies to maintain low-price competition, and is attempting to close this back door through high tariffs. China currently controls over 80% of the global solar industry supply chain, including silicon ingots, wafers, cells, and modules. Its dominance stems from several factors. Cost advantage. China has significantly reduced solar product prices through economies of scale, government subsidies, low labor costs, and lax environmental regulations. For example, polysilicon production costs in China are approximately $8.10 per kilogram compared to up to $20 in Western countries. Policy support. The Chinese government supports the solar industry through low-interest loans, tax exemptions, and land subsidies. For instance, the Made in China 2025 plan designated solar as a strategic industry, and the National Development and Reform Commission, NDRC, has provided billions of dollars in funding to solar companies. Lax environmental regulations. In the early stages of China's solar industry boom, 2000-2010, environmental regulations were relatively lax, leading some companies to inadequately handle pollutants from production. In the 2010s, several small polysilicon plants in Gansu and Sichuan caused river pollution due to improper wastewater discharge, sparking widespread public protests. Some small and medium-sized solar companies dumped production waste directly without proper recycling, causing severe soil and water contamination. Although China has strengthened environmental regulations in recent years, such as the 2015 revision of the Environmental Protection Law, local governments often prioritize economic development over environmental enforcement, especially in less developed regions. The primary pollution in solar production occurs during processes like monocrystalline silicon cleaning and silicon wafer etching, which use hydrofluoric acid, generating large amounts of fluorine-containing wastewater. Due to the high fluoride ion concentration in solar wastewater, it is highly acidic or alkaline, strongly corrosive to equipment, and has poor biodegradability, with a low BOD-COD ratio that fluctuates with wastewater volume. If improperly treated, this fluorine-containing wastewater not only wastes valuable resources but also severely pollutes soil, vegetation, and groundwater, endangering animal and human health. Additionally, polysilicon production generates significant exhaust gases and byproducts such as silicon tetrachloride, trichlorosilane, TCS, and dichlorosilane, DCS. Silicon tetrachloride is a hazardous substance, a colorless or pale yellow fuming liquid that is acidic, corrosive, and highly irritating to the upper respiratory tract and eyes, causing tissue necrosis upon skin contact. TCS containing DCS has similar physicochemical properties with slightly lower toxicity, but it rapidly hydrolyzes into hydrogen chloride or hydrochloric acid upon contact with water or moisture and poses a risk of combustion or explosion when exposed to heat or open flames. If recycling processes are immature, these chlorine-containing hazardous substances are likely to leak, posing significant safety and pollution risks. For a polysilicon plant with an annual capacity of 20,000 tons, over 100,000 tons of silicon tetrachloride byproducts are generated. The wastewater, exhaust gases, and solid waste produced during polysilicon production, if not effectively treated or utilized, cause severe pollution to air, water, and land. This pollution is not limited to upstream production. Construction and waste from decommissioned solar systems also pollute the environment. Years ago, a Washington Post article titled "Solar Energy Firms Leave Waste Behind in China" caused an industry uproar. Western media questioned whether Chinese solar companies prioritized profits over environmental protection. The report stated, investing in waste recycling requires significant funds and time, not to mention the enormous energy consumption needed for recycling at over 1,800 degrees Celsius. By not installing pollution control processes, Chinese companies can save millions in costs. Years later, have these issues been fully resolved? Let's examine the following report. The Longyangxia Dam Solar Park in Qinghai, a northwestern province, is the world's largest solar park, showcasing China's grand vision. The park houses 4 million light-absorbing solar panels, covering 27 square kilometers of the arid Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, roughly 13 times the size of Monaco, and generates enough electricity to power over 200,000 households. This park and other projects, such as the world's largest floating solar farm in eastern Anhui province, are part of China's clean energy revolution. China is transitioning from one of the world's most polluted countries to one actively adopting clean energy as part of its pollution control efforts. In terms of investment, manufactured solar panels and energy generated, China is now the world's largest solar market. However, despite its bright prospects, there are looming clouds. Solar panels, which convert sunlight into electricity, have a lifespan of about 30 years. Experts warn that millions of aging panels could have a significant environmental impact, especially since China lacks specific regulations for solar panel recycling. The International Renewable Energy Agency predicts that by 2050, China could accumulate approximately 20 million tons of solar panel waste, the largest solar waste volume globally. According to a 2018 study by Tsinghua University's School of Environment, these panels have been piling up since 2015. Currently, the global solar industry is dominated by silicon-based solar panels. While 90% of the materials in silicon-based panels are harmless, the remaining toxic elements pose significant challenges during recycling. In fact, no form of modern energy use is entirely clean. There are always trade-offs to consider. In a late 2023 CCTV report, China's state broadcaster exposed dark secrets in the recycling of decommissioned solar modules. The investigation revealed that small factories and workshops processing decommissioned solar modules were causing severe environmental pollution. One individual from out of town operated a factory in a village to process decommissioned solar modules. He stated that incineration and processing of solar modules would cause pollution and could not be done elsewhere, so he and a few fellow villagers invested in building a factory in a Henan village. Cheng Gangqi from the China National Resources Recycling Association commented,
From
the perspective of this simple incineration process, its dust control and overall environmental management are definitely substandard. First, the exhaust gases from combustion lack proper collection and treatment devices. Second, there are no devices to manage dust, which, if uncontrolled, becomes airborne particles. For high molecular weight plastic products like these, combustion can easily produce harmful substances similar to acid rain. The investigation further found that such small factories and workshops are not rare and exist in other regions as well. Environmental pollution and low recycling rates are common issues among these village-based workshops. Despite their rudimentary equipment, these workshops process significant volumes daily. In reality, China's solar industry has been rapidly developed at the expense of the environment, human health, and the survival opportunities of future generations. This new industry was fostered by the Chinese government and is now attempting to dominate and control the global solar industry through low-price dumping. To date, China controls over 80% of the global solar industry supply chain. In contrast, the U.S. has stringent regulatory oversight. The Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and Resource Conservation and Recovery Act strictly control industrial emissions and waste disposal. For example, silicon tetrachloride requires multi-stage treatment, and waste disposal costs can account for 10 to 20% of a factory's investment. High environmental compliance costs make it difficult for U.S. solar manufacturers to compete with Chinese companies. In 2023, the U.S. accounted for only 2% of global solar module production, while China accounted for 80%. U.S. environmental NGOs and community groups also exert significant oversight, and any new solar factory construction may face public hearings and lawsuits, increasing operational challenges for companies. In this environment, U.S. solar companies struggle to compete with their Chinese counterparts. In fact, the Trump administration's imposition of up to 3,521% tariffs on Southeast Asian solar panels is the latest chapter in the U.S.-China trade war and global solar market competition. Its core objective is to protect the U.S. domestic solar manufacturing industry and counter China's subsidies and dumping practices through Southeast Asian countries. At the same time, Trump's use of these surgical precision tariffs also serves as a warning to the aforementioned countries, aiming to divide and dismantle China's allies in Southeast Asia. In the coming months, the ITC's final decision, on June 2, 2025, will be critical. If the tariffs take effect, the U.S. solar market may face short-term challenges, but domestic manufacturing could gain breathing room. Southeast Asian countries will need to quickly adjust their export strategies, while China may strive to maintain its global solar industry dominance through new markets and strategies. What are your thoughts on this? Feel free to leave a comment and share your unique opinions and suggestions. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.